Hello, my name is Jess Solomon, and I'm an arts advocate, cultural worker, and product of Baltimore City Public Schools. I am so honored to be in conversation with this year's curatorial team for the Arts Everyday 10 by 10 exhibition. I'm here with Michaela Colon, Justin Folks, Faith Maduka, and Ty Candace Smith, who are all amazing, busy seniors in high school, and also served as the phenomenal curatorial team for this year's exhibition. So I'm gonna ask that each of you just go around and introduce yourselves, let us know what school you attend, and it would be great to hear about an artist or curator that inspires you. And if you have an arts practice, tell us about your practice as well. So whoever wants to start can.
I'll go.
Great.
All right. Hello, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Justin Folks. I'm a senior at Archbishop Curley High School. And something that, or I guess an artist that I'm really inspired by, he goes by the name of the Sketch Monkey on YouTube. Basically, he just designs cars that are, I guess, not extinct, but like they kind of went out of production and brings them into the modern world. It's something that I kind of do with my own art, such as designing cars. That's kind of my practice right now.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Michaela. I go to Bard High School, Early College, Baltimore, and I'm a senior. One of my favorite artists, his name is Jazza. He's also a YouTuber, and he kind of does like a lot of mixed media and things like that. And I am mainly a painter, but I also try to do mixed media and things as well.
Awesome. I feel like I'm going to learn so much in this conversation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ty Candace Smith from Reach Partnership High School. I'm a visual artist / poet, and my favorite artist would be Kehinde Wiley. He's an American painter, and like his backgrounds be so interesting. So like I use like what he do as in his backgrounds, they be colorful and like different. They be very creative. So I use that in like most of my backgrounds.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Faith Maduka, and I go to Bard High School, Early College, and somebody who's inspired me is probably Monica Ikegwu. She goes to Micah as well, and she's also a person I know in my fellowship. So she's usually a painter. Yeah, she's usually a painter who paints a lot of Black people or people of color, and they all usually live in Baltimore.
Thank you so much. Funny enough, I'm looking at a Monica Ikegwu piece right next to me, and it also reminds me of Kehinde Wiley. So, you know, I think about, now I want to look up Sketch Monkey and Jazza, and yeah, please just keep sending me artists to know about. So thank you very much, and I'm really excited to be in conversation with you all. So before we jump in, I want to talk a little bit about the 10 by 10 exhibition that is powered by Arts Every Day. So as someone who has seen every show in the 10 by 10 exhibition, I believe this is the 5th annual one. I know for a fact that this is not just another student art show, and the work features Baltimore City Public School students' visual art on a 10 by 10 piece of paper or canvas. Historically, that's been the case. And now that we've gone virtual, the exhibition has grown and has actually grown in scope, so it's not just visual art. But each year, the theme provides an opportunity to explore the current social, political, and arts landscape of the city. And because of the participatory process, the exhibition has always served as a unique survey of students' artistic talents, and also it gives a look into the complexity of young people and their minds. And what I think is really powerful about the exhibition is that teachers have the freedom to approach the theme in a way that best suits their students. And Arts Every Day leaves it to them to decide how they want to address the topics in their classrooms. So this year, I believe there were 19 schools. Is that correct? 19 schools participated, and this year the theme was voice. I'm pulling a quote from the description of the show, and it says, "Our voices are incomparable, affirming, and pivotal to our ability to truly bring change into this world." It also says that each piece is impactful in its own way as students use their creativity to educate, inform, and inspire others, as well as themselves, to bring about change in their lives and their communities. And I think it's so powerful to have young people serve as the curators of this very important show. Before I jump into the questions, is there anything else about the design of the exhibition that is important for the audience to know, particularly this year being virtual?
I think as we discussed as a group, like we wanted the specific layout to reflect their themes or kind of like branches within voice. So as voice is like the overall, category, we're still looking at different parts of voice. We're still looking at different branches, basically. We're looking at different things that are under the meaning of voice.
Thank you. I love the idea of branches because that means you can go somewhere else, right, and still be connected to this idea of voice, which I really want to dig into a little bit later when we talk about some of the work. So if you had to fill in the blank for this statement, let me know what you would say. So the artwork in this year's exhibition shows us blank. The art in this year's exhibition shows us blank.
I would say it shows us insightfulness, especially because like when you look at everything, it's like everything's so different. Like before, like you kind of piece everything into a category, everything is so universal, and it's like really interesting to see like what people think about, like when you hear one word, it's like there's so many perspectives and different things that people are talking about. So I think that insightful would be the best word to put for that sentence.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I would say,
oh, you can go.
Go ahead,
You can...
Justin.
All right. So I was gonna say that I guess what I get from this whole thing, if I were to put it all in like one word or one sentence, is that yeah, basically like it kind of shows how students grasp their like concepts of the modern world and like where they're recognizing what exactly is going on around them. For example, the whole BLM movement. I've seen a lot of those pieces being portrayed in the Arts Everyday exhibition. From young students, which is kind of surprising to me because like you would only think of older students kind of just thinking about that stuff because it affects them more directly. That's just something that I found like really cool and interesting because now like the younger generation is acknowledging this stuff early on so then they can help prevent that in the future.
Right. And what's the role of the curator, right, to point that out and to pull that out. So thank you for that. Ty Candace?
To answer that, I was just going to say, like, to me, it felt like power, humanity, and adaptation, because like the voice is very powerful. And I'm like, once you think of what you thinking of people just talking, but like the art that came in is like so many different ways you can show the voice. And also adaptation, because like we did this virtually, students did this virtually. Students had like due dates to submit stuff, and they just worked well with it, and they kept going and stuff. So that's what I mean by adaptation.
Yeah.
And humanity, just humans, period. Like the kindness of humans, the heart of humans, the like work that was coming in from like the young kids, as Justin was saying, like it was amazing. So that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, that adaptation piece is so important. And I think about being in Baltimore too, right? Like I think this is the place of adaptation. Like people make it work, right? Like we will figure things out because we have to. And so it's really awesome to see how that showed up in the artwork. Also thinking about how Michaela's notion of insightfulness and this idea of finding yourself in other people's artwork in ways that might surprise you, right? Like you might see yourself in a third grader's work and you realize like they may feel some of the same feelings that you feel, and how art can connect us when we feel lonely or disconnected, especially right now, given everything that's happening with the pandemic and just the ways we've had to adapt, right, and work online. So thank you for that. Any other thoughts on that prompt?
I also wanted to say for a word that can fit in there is educate, because the ability for someone to teach these kids or the ability for them to actually learn about what's going on in their surroundings is really good. And you can see that throughout the entire work. Like, there were so many teachers that were supporting and urging on their kids to submit work into their class, which I think is really great that it's, being able to show that in the school system, to show those problems and not just like avoid them or just, cast them away as they don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder about the teacher's experience too, right? Like maybe they saw something in their students that they never saw before because the student didn't feel like they could say it, but they could paint it or write it, So yeah, that would be an interesting thing to think about as well. So my next question is, as you came to this process, you knew that voice was going to be the theme. But once the submission started to roll in, did your notions of voice change? And I heard a little bit of that already, but if there are any examples of things you saw and it made you kind of question or expand your definition of voice, I would love to hear an example as curators of the show. So whoever wants to share.
All right.
So me and Justin keep doing this.
Go ahead. No, it's your turn to go first this time. You go.
So I would say mine's changed because like my definition kind of shifted because the work I saw, it wasn't like as straightforward as like the word voice is. Like, people just think of like somebody saying something, but people don't actually think about what's being heard or what's being said coming out of their mouth or what's being like shown through like art and stuff like that or what's being drawn. And that's how I was like, that's how my mind thought at first, like, okay, if it's voice, then somebody's obviously speaking. And that's crazy because I'm an artist myself and I thought that way. But once I saw the artwork coming in, even my artwork too, it's like voice is more than just like, standing up and saying something, so.
Yeah. Thank you. Justin?
So yeah, I thought about the Black Lives Matter movement, but that's kind of just what I thought about since it affected me personally. But seeing everybody else's submissions and just like how everybody used symbolism to describe voice was definitely like a very interesting approach. You had a lot of Black Fists, or obviously the Black Panther Party, and yeah, it was just kind of cool just seeing how everybody took their own little approaches to it, just seeing like different ways in which voice can be used. So it wasn't just talking about like Black Lives Matter, it talked about like equal rights, equal pay, all that good stuff. Yeah, it was just interesting to see the different age ranges of like how people approach these situations, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear more, and I'm curious about like how did the elementary school students work? Was there a difference between elementary school and high school? And yeah, anybody else chime in, but I definitely want to hear about some examples of how the work expanded your definition of voice.
All right. I guess I'll start with this one. I had just pulled up because I remember that I saw it and I was like, wow, this is dope. But it's from a student at Roland Park Elementary School, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And they basically created a piece where it showed equality in the earth. It was kind of cool because they talked about like genders and stuff like that, like how people are outcast and should be brought in together. It was definitely a cool piece, especially from a student in middle school, just kind of getting this grasp of this very, very complex concept and bring it into this simple piece. Yeah, it looks really cool.
Indeed. Thanks. Michaela, Faye?
Yeah, like the age thing I think was probably the most interesting thing to me because like these days, like kids when they're like 2, like they're like grabbing their phones, like playing with phones, like know how to use the phone. So it's like to like really see like so many different like younger ages like participating in like, like political movements or racial movements, like or like advocating these movements. It's really eye-opening because you really, technology is like, it's a good and a bad thing these days. And so it's really interesting to see. And another interesting thing was like on talking about the topic of voice, I saw a lot of like self-portraits, and it's kind of like interesting to think about like how a self-portrait would communicate like what my voice is. And like while I was thinking about that, like looking back at the piece that I submitted, like I also did portraits, like not even realizing like that, you know, it really does, like words aren't the only way to, you know, communicate, you know, what you want to be said.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was the most interesting thing.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, the amount of portraits as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and there's power in showing yourself and being visible in that way. Faith, were you going to say something?
Yeah, there were a lot of stray like pictures of just like streets on Baltimore, or just like row houses or townhouses, or just stray pictures like that. And it also kind of made me think like, yeah, because like, you know, I started thinking of different accents, like how they say you have a Baltimore accent, you say two instead of two, you know? And I was just thinking of that. I was like, so, you know, even just taking a picture of like a street or like a pole where they leave like the teddy bears and balloons, you know, to signify when somebody passed away. I was just like, that is also like a part of voice, because it speaks of your environment, speaks of the place that you live. And that's just, you know, a thing that you know, everybody knows, like, oh, when you put a teddy bear on a light pole, you know, it signifies something. But if somebody were to come into Baltimore and not, you know, be in that environment, they wouldn't know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Talk about voice, right? Like what that means in a community. Anybody else have any thoughts before I jump on to the next question? Cool. So, okay, so voice, we know that people submitted poetry this year. There was also some audio. Talk a little bit about that process, and what did you notice in those types of media? You know, was there a certain tone in the work? You know, I noticed some of the work that it struck me as really personal, and made me a little bit uncomfortable, right? Like people wrestling with some really big challenges around their having a voice and feeling like their voice has been snatched away. And so I'm curious about what was it like to listen to audio, and what were some of the themes that came out of the audio and some of the poetry?
I'd have to say that it was a lot of I want to say pride centered, but it was just a lot of people acknowledging like the beauty of themselves and their race. I kind of found that really cool, and just how everybody brought that into the exhibition, not in similarities, but in their own unique ways, obviously, like, you know, hair and talking about their skin color, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just self-appreciation was a really strong thing that I saw a lot, and it was really cool.
Anything else about the audio or poetry?
Yeah, for the poetry, like I know you had said earlier, like you like it's kind of like weird how you, or funny that you could like connect to like a work made by like a third grader. But like for poetry, the thing that really stuck with me the most was made by a sixth grader, and I think it was called like Ease of Easily, and it's like kind of talking about like how it's hard to let go of someone that's like been telling you what to do like all your life. And like it's so weird because like I read it over and over and over and over and over again. I was like, wow, like it's like kind of so like oddly relatable. And it's like to know like I haven't lived like, I mean, I've lived a little bit longer than the sixth grader, but like not that much longer. And it's like kind of interesting to think like, you know, no matter like what your age, it's like we're all going through these same problems, like, and they don't have to be like the exact same, but you know, we're all relating to these issues. So that was the poem that really kind of stuck with me the most.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I was gonna say like throughout the poetry and stuff, and like the different pictures that came with it, it's like everybody seemed like they was just letting everything out and like getting something off their chest that they've been had on their chest for a long time. So that played an important part to me, because like speak, because you know, as like even us right now as teenager get told like, oh, not what to do and like what to say, or respect your elders or this and that. So it makes you feel like a little belittled So it's like, for them to say this, like how Michaela was talking about the 6th graders, like she been felt that way, but she probably felt like, I can't say this because it's like, it's going to come off as too grown or this and that.
Right.
But it's like, that's how I felt like they was just putting their emotions and pain just out there. And I loved it. I really enjoyed the poetry too. It was nice.
Me too. And I could relate, I have a boss. There are people I have to report to. I want to let that go, So, indeed. Any other thoughts about the poetry or other mediums that we saw in the show, or that you selected and helped curate? Okay. I would like to hear from you about the curatorial process and your approach. So I know you met over winter break to view the artwork. You discussed the themes. Faith, you mentioned earlier this idea of branches on a tree. I love that. So voice is like the trunk, and then you have all these branches that come out of the work. So you talked about that. And you all wrote the curatorial statement. So talk to me about that. What were some big lessons for you? Where were some ways you saw your practice grow? Like you got to grow into some stuff, and just anything else you want to share about that process. We'd love to hear.
I will go first this time. So yeah, that idea of branches, it kind of made me think like, well, as for the curatorial statement, I remember one thing I put down. It was just like how the adults or like the teachers, kind of back to that idea of them like being able to share that knowledge or being able to talk about those problems with children that are way like younger than us, like 3rd graders and second graders, talking about these problems that they're noticing in their community, and being able to share that with basically youth, being able to share that with a bunch of youth and have them, try to make a change within their community, try to make a change within, their families or whatever type of space they're in, to change that and to actually put out their own voice. Because there was a lot of just young people that submitted work here. There were some older people, I don't remember, but there's a lot of younger people. And I just feel like, as for like elementary school kids, their voice kind of gets hidden because it's like, oh, you don't know any better, or you're too young to understand this. But they actually do. And they actually show that through all of their work. So yeah.
I love that. And you all played a really critical role in ensuring that their voices were lifted up, right? And seen as just as valuable as a senior in high school. So I just really appreciate you lifting that up, because this may be the first time a young person sees himself as an artist, right? Like if they go and become and practice their craft, they might really think back to this exhibition as like one of the first times that they saw their work as an artist. So I think that's so great, and I'm glad you lifted that up. So yeah, talk a little bit more about the curatorial process. Anybody who wants to jump in?
All right. I had no experience like being a curator for anything, and I had no clue what it meant at the time. So I just kind of joined it to get a new experience. It was at the end of the day, like it was hard to get that curatorial statement at the beginning, because it was just kind of like everything is different until we had categorized it into like different themes and stuff like that, listed them out. And it was definitely a fun collaborative process. It helped with like a lot of teamwork. It showed that we worked better together rather than apart. It was definitely a long process, but it was a long and well worth it process, because everything worked out in my opinion perfectly fine. All the artwork, like select which ones go in, like where they go at, and all that cool stuff. And also just kind of seeing how the students interpret like what they drew. So it can be like something that shows the opposite of what it actually means. It was really cool.
Thanks. So you mentioned this was your first time in a curatorial role. Is that the case for everyone else, or is this, I'm seeing some head nods. Faith, was this your first time as a curator? She said, oh yeah. Well, you all did a phenomenal job. And, you know, the fact that you had to work together, this is not something that is, you know, you were in school. This was something outside of the school day, and you developed a statement together and, you know, a really strong show. So I just want to commend you for that. Any other insights about the process and what you learned, where you grew? Is anybody interested in future curation? So should we look to, you know, get you a gig at a museum?
Yeah, I thought the process was like really interesting, especially like having to like sort through all the work and read the descriptions. And it was like Justin was saying, it was like a long process, but it was definitely like very insightful and kind of just very informational. And like with building the actual website, I know like Faith was talking about this earlier, like trying to make the website like kind of as interactive as it can be. And like, you know, choosing the designs, like the bold color in the background, kind of like emphasizing the photos. It was all like kind of, it was new and it was exciting. And I definitely liked the experience.
Great.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add to what they were saying. Like me, I'm always somebody who, like, you know, like if you get paired with somebody in a class, you're doing all the work. Like I always been that kid, so it was nice to have like people who actually did work with me this time. It was actually nice to like not be like, oh, I'm gonna be independent, you know, run away from the problem, because like I had people who actually were engaged just like me, and you know they did well, like they did so good, and it's like, yes, maybe I'm gonna consider working with people more. But I want to get my hopes up because they not Faith, Justin, or Michaela, you know. So that was like a good process for me, and like they were saying, like it was very like long, but it was like so like it was a lot of things that you could acknowledge during this process for real, and you know, take it with you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we just met, right? But I can feel the camaraderie and the energy just in the group. And so I know that you all, you know, were able to do great work because you connected so well. And I'm really excited about the conversation, the part 2 of this conversation that we'll have next week. I think we can really get into the nitty gritty in that conversation. So I have just one more question for you. And then if you have anything you want to make sure you say, we can, you know, make sure that is a part of this record. So based on what you've, you know, named as what voice means, what you discovered, what you discovered around voice through the curation process, what you learned about yourself, and just this really powerful show, who do you think should see this exhibit? And, you know, the internet is amazing. So if you say a name, you know, they might get a chance to really see this show. So you can, you know, name someone or just a community of people, but who do you think needs to see this exhibition?
I would say Baltimore City Public Schools. So they can be able to, you know, teach kids more about like just expressing themselves, or, you know, like just, I don't know, just gathering knowledge about their community, or just being able to put that into, you know, some kind of art form or some kind of form of expression, because we don't really have a lot of art programs within Baltimore City. We don't have a lot of places where somebody can express themselves. So it just kind of gets all bottled up, and we're just stuck with a lot of creativity that never has an outlet. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I definitely do think like older communities should view this exhibit, because I know we're kind of talking about this earlier, like people, or like just older people these days think that children don't really go through anything, or that you know, they haven't really experienced anything, so like they don't know nothing about nothing. And so like I feel like the exhibit really shows like how engaged the younger community and like all of us like as younger people are really engaging like in what's going on in the world right now. And I think it's important to let like, you know, people know that like, you know, we're just as involved as everybody else.
Thank you.
I would have to say, if I had to choose one person, I would choose the governor, and here's why. Mainly because I feel that Larry Hogan like would definitely appreciate seeing the younger generation actually care about a problem that he also agrees is a problem. But if I could choose, like, I wouldn't say like a group of people, but just people in general who should see it. Anybody who can get their hands on it, to be honest with you. I think that no matter like what your background is, like you should just definitely see it, because you could be going through it, your brother could be going through it, your mother could be going through it. You'll never know. And just acknowledging that like we're all still tied in somehow, no matter how different we seem. It's kind of cool just to see that exhibited through like younger students up to older students. And just the variety again of the art show. Everybody has their own niche and like what they like to do and stuff like that, and maybe their own interest. Just seeing that exhibited in the art show for everybody to kind of just see on displays is definitely something that I think would be a good idea.
Awesome. Thank you.
Going back to like what Faith has said like about the Baltimore City, like the teachers who teach different subjects in the arts, and like adults and kids who don't really take up the art classes and stuff like that, because like a lot of times it's brushed off as like, oh, that's just an art class. Well, that's just that. Like, it's just art, and it's not just art. Like, as you can see in these paint drawings, different variety of things that was in our exhibition. So it's like, I want them to see that, because as they say, you don't need an art class, but you really do. And like, here's why. Like, some of the parents probably don't even know, like, this is what your kid is feeling. And it's like, boom, here it is, the art that we don't need. But okay. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yes, thank you. I feel like you all should run for office. I'm going to just say that here. I'm going to say it again. And then this part 2 of the conversation. Michaela, Faith, Justin, Ty, Candace, I'm just so impressed and blown away by the show and just the way you have talked about the show and how you see this work as not only just works of art, but really social commentary on a young person's experience in Baltimore City. And as somebody from Baltimore who is a product of the school system and, you know, wanted more art classes than I had, I wish that there was a 10 by 10 exhibition that was around when I was young. So just thank you so much for your work. I'm excited about what's next for you. I want to I want y'all to curate more things, and I'm gonna see, who I can talk to make that happen. But is there anything else that you want to say before we officially close for this conversation?
Yes. Not gonna lie, I just had to give a big appreciation and thank you to not only you, but also Miss Betty, because she carried this whole thing on her back. Like, she literally brought it through the mud out into the sun. Like, I just don't know how, but she did. She made everything work so perfectly. Like, we would just tell her like what we wanted, not what we wanted, but like how to organize stuff. She like, oh, I'll try this out, see if we like it. Just, I don't know. She was just the backbone of the whole thing. So definitely a shout out to her.
Absolutely. Thank you for lifting her up. That's it. Have a good evening. And I will see y'all very soon.
Buddy, you have to forgive me. I'm a little teary-eyed listening to the team. Hello, good evening, welcome, and thank you to everyone tuning in tonight. My name is Betty Gonzalez. I am the Communications and Development Manager for Arts Every Day, and I've also been very fortunate to be the organizer for the 10 by 10 exhibit for the past 3 years, where we've also been inviting high school students to come on board to serve as curators. As you heard just mentioned before, this is our 5th annual 10 by 10 exhibit. That means that for the last 5 years, through this exhibit, Arts Every Day has worked to shine the spotlight on and celebrate youth talent from Baltimore City Public Schools. And we do this every year through our partnerships that bring youth, educators, local artists, and arts organizations together to showcase hundreds of compelling works of art each winter. It seems to sometimes be the only thing that I really look forward to when it's cold in the winter. Before I turn it over back to Jess and the curators, I just want to take a few moments to give a few shout outs to everyone that helped us to get to where we are tonight, as well as say a few things about this year's 10 by 10 exhibit. I want to thank our ever supportive board of directors, some of who I know are with us today, our generous supporters and donors, our partners, especially UMBC Center for Art Design, Visual Culture, and Maryland State Arts Council's Creativity Grant, for which none of this would be possible without everyone. I especially want to thank the BMA for hosting this event and providing this wonderful opportunity and platform and bringing us all together tonight. And last but not least, I really want to thank our amazing and charismatic facilitator, Jessica Solomon, and our talented and dedicated youth curatorial teams, who you just met, Faith, Justin, Michaela, and Ty Candice, who, despite the obstacles and challenges of virtual meetings, website crashes, endless emails, and text messages, have come together to navigate all of this, plan the show out, and curate everything you see today. With virtual learning, we weren't really sure what to expect when it came to how the works would be submitted, how many would be submitted, or what it would look like. We decided to loosen up the requirements. We opened up the show to more types of work because, you know, it's about voice, so why should we limit how people share their voice? We opened it up to literary works and videos, and we even extended the deadlines because we know that with everything happening, flexibility was key if we wanted the show to go on. And we were very excited when we found that we got over 130 works of art submitted. So that also meant that 130 works of art that our curators had to sift through. They thought about it, they put it into themes, and all of this was happening during their winter break after school and on the weekends. But that also means that that's 130 plus students and teachers who also overcame the challenges of creating works with materials and resources that they had available to them at home. And that's important to think about. The works you see are utilizing free software that the teachers were able to get their hands on, apps that they knew that their students could have access to. You see works on notebook paper. You see blurry cell phone videos, and lots of digital work. So that just goes to show you that these young people, through everything happening to them and around them, they still chose to create and share their voice with you. So I think that's something important to think about as you view the show. So I'm going to turn it back over to the team here. And as the conversation continues, we want to invite teachers to share their experiences with preparing their students or participating in the show. I know we have a few teachers that have left comments. We had Ms. Rogers and Ms. Emberson and Ms. Cotterbaugh and Ms. Miller chiming in. So I'm really happy to have you here and supporting your students' work. But yeah, I want to turn it over to the team. Thank you.
Hey everyone. It feels like a reunion of sorts. It's good to see y'all. And it was really nice to see that conversation again. And I want to thank everyone for listening in tonight. We have about 20 minutes. And so we really want to encourage people to get into the chat and ask questions of the curatorial team. Once again, my name is Jess Solomon, and I'm here with Ty Candice, Justin, Michaela, and Faith, the folks who helped develop and execute the show titled Voice. I'm gonna just jump in with some questions, but before I do that, I want to pause and hear from you all and see how you're doing and what was that like to hear yourself and see yourself talk about the work.
All right, I'll go first. So, to be honest with you, it feels good to be here. It feels good to see all the people that really appreciate all of our work that we put into this. It feels good to help out the community after many, many years of living here. It's also good to see that other people really do care about this community, which is really cool. Yeah, I don't know, just seeing myself, just kind of hearing myself is kind of cool. Like, hey, like, yeah, I said that. But no, I really meant all the stuff that I said. Like, it was a very fun process. It was very cool to meet all the curators, the people who helped put this whole thing together, and even the artists. Like, thank you for submitting. We really appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you. Anything else before we jump in? Any other thoughts about hearing and seeing yourself talk about the work? Okay, I'm gonna jump in then. I think this question is super relevant to us living virtually, right? So you all curated a show in these little boxes online, right? And did this as a group, so collaboration was important. And this question comes from Sarah Edelsberg, and she asks, what was one of the most challenging things about curating an exhibit in a virtual format during the pandemic, and how did you figure that out?
To be honest, just this whole online platform is, I'm pretty sure, different for everybody in this call. The main thing that I kind of realized was like a problem was like when you try and speak and then lag cuts in, so you might be interrupting somebody else. That's kind
Yeah.
of something that I was a lot of conscious about during this whole process. We just got over it by, everybody just kind of taking their time. Some people jump in and out, some people not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so that's
Kayla.
pretty much the only problem that I was seeing from this.
Justin, I just did the thing you said about the lag. So yes, perfect example. Faith, Michaela, any thoughts around how you navigated challenges, one during the pandemic, and also the idea of curating virtually?
I think one of the biggest struggles I probably had was like finding out how to properly place everyone's work in like a category that would, show their work off the best, but then also having that challenge of, having the exhibit online. So you have to, keep space in mind on the website and, keep the visual aspect of, making it appealing to the eye and entertaining and interactive. So I think that was probably like the thing I struggled with the most. And I think that we overcame that by just collaborating and, asking everybody's opinions, like trying to see what what's the word, what categories that we could, fit together and things like that. And so I think that it worked out great.
Mm-hmm. Faith, any thoughts about how you navigated the challenges? Yeah, so what we're experiencing in real time is like what it means to do this work online. And so I think that that's definitely something we need to keep in mind as we move forward, because I could imagine that we could do another exhibition online. So Ty Candace, I was just saying that one of the challenges is we're all managing internet, and what does that look like when we are working together? So if you want to just chime in about how you've been able to navigate that, please do. You're on mute. Okay, great.
Okay, so I don't know if y'all can hear me, but okay. So like it's so challenging, like, because Wi-Fi isn't like the strongest right now.
Yeah, and you're right. So here's a perfect example, and I think I'm going to jump to the next question. When Ty Candace comes back, we'll finish up. But what could Baltimore City do to support young artists? So think about yourself, think about your friends, think about the folks who submitted for the show. And also keep in mind that, there are people here who can share this with policymakers and people who are, working on behalf of young people in the city. So, what could Baltimore City do to support young artists?
I think introducing new types of art classes, because usually when people think about art classes, people are like, well, I can't draw or I can't paint, but like there's so many different aspects of art, like so many different types of varieties and genres, and I think that there needs to be more of a variety of what art is, and so that everybody's able to participate, because it discourages a lot of people when take an art class and like, well, I can't draw, so like I'm not going to try. So there's a lot of different aspects of art, so many that could be introduced into the school systems. And I think that's probably the most important thing, introducing new subjects of art into the school systems.
Mm-hmm. Justin, before you jump, I just wanted to thank Ty Candace for coming back. Just, the idea of keep coming back. But Justin, what can Baltimore City do to support young artists?
I would have to say, from my experience, because I went to, I think it was YPS in 2013 at Micah. That's just a random fact. But I think more art programs around the city would definitely help. Just gather a bunch of students together at a young age so they can at least get some more knowledge about art and how they can bring it into their future lives. Because when a lot of people draw, they just kind of draw for fun. They don't see how it can be productive and how they can actually make money from it. So I think having some sort of workshop, seminar in the summertime, like around a month, uh, would definitely be helpful for just youths in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely can bring like a community of people together, just like how Micah did.
So, Ty, Candace, and Faith, I just asked, what could Baltimore City do to support young artists? And I want to hear from you. And I also want you to think through the lens of, we're more virtual right now, right? So yes, art classes, but how else might we enlist the city to support young artists who may have to create at home? They may not have access to studio space in the same way. So this is a chance for us to get creative about what we ask for. So any thoughts about that?
Hopefully I can speak now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Perfect.
Okay. So what I would say is Baltimore City, since they're already doing like food drives and meals on wheels type of things, they could also make like, I don't know, when people are going to pick up their free food supplies, they make like a sign up sheet or something that says, do you, it could be anybody, do you or your child want to receive art supplies or some kind of, just printer paper or some kind of like watercolor. Doesn't have to be like expensive, like the Crayola joint. So it could be something as simple as that. It's just giving out art supplies to the community because, when we get school supplies and, when it's back to school sales and you see crayons and pencils and color pen all on sale, really take them seriously as like, oh, I can make some serious art with this, or I can actually create something that, nobody's ever seen before. We take it as, oh, it's just a school supply. It would be nice for my art class or something. But
Mm-hmm.
that could start something great for somebody's kid or somebody's parent or.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Taking the art supplies just as serious as you would school supplies and seeing them as such. I think that's a great idea. I am going to jump into the questions in the chat. And I'm going to remix this question by Anne Stringer. So for each of you, as each of you are individual artists as well. So I just want to acknowledge that again. And you came together to curate this show. Were there any personal aha moments for you? And has that shaped or made you think differently about your practice as an artist? Have you brought anything back from this show into your practice as an artist?
All right. I think the thing that I've picked up on, which was common throughout the whole exhibit, were simple symbols meaning complex ideas or subjects. It's something that I've always thought about, not necessarily included in my art, but it's something that's been on my conscience. And I don't know, I just kind of saw that as cool because not a lot of people do that in art. It's usually realism whenever people think of the quote unquote best art. But having some sort of interpretation or I guess a lack of detail can definitely express more than if someone were to draw something that's a picture. I don't know. I guess you can say that kind of ties in with my art just because I make concepts and stuff. But yeah, just the whole idea of using simple symbols to create complex ideas is really cool.
Any other aha moments or things you're thinking about differently about your practice?
Yeah, so like I saw when a lot of people were talking about voice that they kind of used their self-portraits, and there was even a piece with like a circle of tigers, and it kind of opened my mind to like how much imagery does impact art. Like Justin was saying, like realism does play a significance in message, but I feel like imagery, like having an image that, you know, doesn't immediately tell you the message, it kind of makes you think a lot more. And so that really stuck with me when I was looking through everything, kind of thinking like, you know, I would never associate this with the theme of voice. And so it was kind of like a big like shock to me that you could really like use these images and like make it mean something like towards this message. That's what really surprised me the most.
Awesome. How about you, Faith? Okay. Looks like we'll come back to Faith. As we start to land this plane, I just want to thank folks for being in the chat. I'll read a comment from Megan Koderba. She said, I would love to see more artistic opportunities in the community for Baltimore City youth. So many students, their first and sometimes only experience with art is in the classroom. And I think we need to work on helping make a bridge so that art isn't seen as something just in school, but something ingrained in the community. I wholeheartedly agree. It should be embedded in public life. And I feel like exhibitions like this one help us imagine that as a possibility. You know, it would be great to see 10 by 10 projected down at City Hall, you know, outside. Take note, somebody, if that's a thing. As we wrap up, I want to ask a question from Ashley Pratt, and she wants to know what's next for each of you, whether it's arts or non-arts related, because you all are seniors, correct? Yeah, so you're thinking about the next chapter and what that looks like, and it'd be great to just hear about what you're thinking about, either with your art or not, just so we can know how to keep tabs on you. So whoever wants to start, actually, Ty Candace, if you can start, that would be great. How about you, Michaela?
So in terms of what's next for me, I really did enjoy this process, and I would love to, you know, keep an eye out for more opportunities like this. And in terms of my career, I'm thinking about architecture, but I also am really interested in connecting art and science and like doing a study about that. So that's really where I'm headed in the future.
Great. Everybody heard that? Okay, take note. How about you, Justin?
Well, as a senior, the main thing I'm focused about right now is obviously graduating high school. But beyond that, I plan on being an automotive designer, the exterior design for cars, car shells. No company specifics, but I mean, Ferrari would be cool. So I'm working towards, well, not yet, but I'm going to start working towards my bachelor's in either graphic design, industrial design, transportation design, or some sort of business management, because I might want to start my own art business in the future. So I'm kind of just laying things out right now and just, you know, practicing my skills.
Yeah, great. Ty Candace, I asked what was next for everyone, either arts related or non-arts related. We need somebody to figure out a teleportation web server for us. Anything else that you want to make sure that the audience knows before we wrap up for the evening? About you, about the show, about what the show represents? Anything else you feel like is important that this audience understand about this show?
I guess just about the show, it was definitely harder than I guess how I perceived it to be, because I had looked up what a curator was, but I didn't fully get it. I just kind of saw the definition, like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge. And I guess just one interesting fact about me, not a lot of people know this, but I am a triplet. There are 2 other versions of me. Yeah, you heard that right. Clones are real. So I'm living proof.
So if we see you in the street, we should make sure that it's you and not your brother, and just don't start talking art to them.
Yeah. I mean they do art too, but
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. So the question, thank you, Justin. So the question was, is there anything else that you want to make sure the audience knows about the show, the work of the team, you know, what your hopes are for the show moving forward? Just final thoughts. So Michaela or Faith, whoever wants to go first can.
Well, I just want to say that I hope that everyone really took the time to look through all the artwork, and that, you know, there is a really powerful message behind every single piece of artwork, like no matter how hard it is to comprehend maybe. And I also just want to say thank you to the whole team. It was a really, really fun experience, and I feel like this is like something, you know, that you don't really get to do every day, and I really enjoyed it. And thank you again, Miss Betty, for real. Like, we're really, really caring so much about this project and making sure that we had everything we needed, and she was always, always making sure we're good. So I just hope that everyone appreciates the work that she also had put into this. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the show.
Thank you. Faith, any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're great.
Okay, good. Something I would like to say about the show is I really just appreciated, you know, doing the whole process. I've never curated before. Almost didn't know what that was the first time we started either. So I was very confused, but it was a very pleasant experience. And yeah, I'm just happy that, you know, we made it. We did it. The website's out. Everything is going. I'm just happy that it's all not come to an end, but I'm just happy that, you know, we put our effort into it and we got it done.
Thank you. Gonna give it a few seconds. So Ty Candace, I just asked everyone to give just some final thoughts about the show and anything else they wanted to make sure the audience knew. And so if you can, please share your final thoughts with us. And I'm so glad you keep coming back.
Yeah, this Wi-Fi is trash right now, but it's okay. Before it cuts me out, I just like to say, like, it was a great team to work with all in all. Like, we.
Well, we got this sentiment of what Ty Candace was saying to us. And I'm so grateful that we got to hear from all of you during our recorded interview. So even if we couldn't hear everything tonight, we definitely have a record of just the amazing work that you've done. I want to thank you personally. I was so inspired by our conversation last week, and I've watched the show twice already. I was serious about figuring out how we can get this up on a projected screen, if Arts Every Day would, you know, humor me. I want to thank everyone in the chat, and for the curators, if you have a chance, look at the comments, because you are revered and people are rooting for you and your success. I'm also excited to see what the future lies ahead for you. And on behalf of everyone here tonight, I just want to thank you again for your work. And yeah, if there's any way that we all, this community, can support your work, please let us know. And I'm gonna see if Ty Candace can close us out with a final statement. All right, Ty Candace, if you can join us again and give us some final words, we will close it. Yep. Okay, everyone. I'm gonna wish you all a good night. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations and thanks to Arts Every Day for helping make this beautiful virtual space happen. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.